Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top 3 Pens series. My name is Appelboom and every Monday we post a new video about the personal top 3 pens of penfluencers. If you don't want to miss out on the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel now. Today we're going to have a look at what was supposed to be the top 3 pens of nibmeister Joshua Lax. But he cleverly found a loophole, meaning you get to see no less than 18 of his favorite pens grouped by their unique, appealing quality. If you're interested to see Joshua's nib work, have a look at his Instagram account, Lax Pen Co, after you're done watching this video.
Hello, my name is Joshua Lax, and I'm really excited to be featured in this episode of 3 Pens, or as I am going to subtitle it, How I Turned 3 Pens into 18, but more on that in a second. For those of you who don't know me, I am a lawyer by day and a nibmeister by night. I have recently done a special nib for Esterbrook that I'm quite proud of called the Scribe. If you're interested, definitely check it out. But enough about me. Let's talk about pens. How did I get into pens? Well, it started when I was in law school and my wife got me a Acme, not a fountain pen, but a rollerball. And I kind of learned to carry like a good pen through owning this particular pen. And I really loved it. Rollerballs, you know, have their own appeal. And then I tried my hand at fountain pens when I was studying for the bar exam. And when you study for the bar exam in the United States and you do these courses to review, they give you these worksheets to fill in. And it's basically like cheap, absorbent newsprint like paper. So I'm sitting there using a fountain pen on some of the most absorbent paper you could possibly imagine. And I, not knowing anything, thought there was something wrong with the pen because it was just seemed to like bleed ink into the paper and feather all over the place. So I actually put it aside thinking that, you know, the fountain pen wasn't going to work out. Well, after I actually started practicing law, I started checking out pens again. And again, going back to the Acme, I mean, this was my special pen. It still is quite special because it sort of started the whole thing off. Well, what I ended up doing was I started looking into, well, what else does Acme offer? And they actually offer fountain pens. And so I bought this Acme. It's a Ben Hall is the artist. It's got like a superhero on it. And I bought the fountain pen adapter attachment. And I started using it. And at some point, I had to figure out how to fill this. And so that, as I think many people of my pen generation will call it, had the experience where you go online to get some information about how to use a converter and do it properly because you stick it in and it doesn't fill all the way or something. And you go online and you find out a lot of information. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates open and there you are. You're greeted by Fountain Pen Network and countless web pages with tons of information, options, variations, what have you. And that led me to actually this pen, which is really what I would say is what got me started into collecting or acquiring fountain pens, which is this very crazy looking pen, the Rotring Core. And at the time, there were Rotrings were kind of on the closeout websites like overstock.com and things like that. You could buy lots of them on eBay. And I got this Rotring Core, which looks like a fountain pen that someone thought the futuristic fountain pens would look at. As we'll see in a second, that's not really the case. But in any event, they had, I got a few of them and I started using this one. And I really just started using fountain pens. And as, again, many of us have experienced, you start using one regularly and you start using many. All right. So that's how I got into pens. At some point, I also began to try and restore vintage ones. And then I decided I wanted to work my own nibs. And luckily at that point, I had Richard Binder to really advise me and teach me some of the real specifics of grinding, repairing, adjusting, tuning, and things like that. And that has obviously served me very well to this day. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity. What I will say just in general about the pen community is that it is a very welcoming place and there's information abound and you can find anyone to help you. I talk to people with problems and questions and demonstrate things. We're all happy to build the community as much as possible. But again, I'm here for 3 pens, or as I like to say, through how 3 pens became 18. How did 3 pens become 18? Well, you know, I have the privilege of being around a lot of great pen community people. And as I was thinking, what are 3 pens? How am I going to pick 3 pens to feature in this as like my favorite? And I did what people love about lawyers, what makes us so appealing is I found a loophole. And when I was told that I had to pick 3 pens, nobody told me, I realized, that I had to pick 3 models, 3 make and models, or 3 specific anything. And so I said to myself, of course. Well, I want to talk about not 3 specific makes and models of pens. I want to talk about 3 types of pens that I really love. And so without further ado, I'm going to talk to you not about 3 specific pens, but 3 design features of pens that I think are really great and really get me excited. And so let's start with this. This is a Parker Duofold. And it is the shining example, and there's many generations going back over 100 years now, of the flat top. And that's the first feature I want to talk about, which is really just, in terms of what it is, the ends of the pen. But in doing that, right, design of these things is very important. It adds, you know, a profile, and from there, you know, it sort of exudes something. I don't know how else to explain it. So to me, there's something so classic about the flat-ended pen, and I have several examples here. But the flat-ended pen to me just is a type of elegance. I think it might be harder to design a good flat-ended pen, and my evidence for that is if you go online and you look at like all the different models offered by different makers, you will seldomly find them doing a flat-ended pen. It might, I don't know this for sure, it might require more design, I don't know. But in any event, to me, because our fountain pen industry in the United States started kind of with many different variations on the flat-ended pen, to me there's something so classic and so important about it. I will say that this particular model of the Parker Duofold, or this particular Parker Duofold, is my favorite of maybe it is probably in the top 3 of the pens I own. And it's a great, to me, again, profile. And there's something as a lawyer, very classic looking, and I feel like I can be in the courtroom or wherever, and with even a crazy looking flat-ended pen, which we're about to look at. And it's something very, very special. This is a more modern, you can go back and I have, you know, the various generations of the Duofold and things like that. You could find Schaefer flat-ended pens. Obviously the Watermans were flat-ended pens. A lot of safety pens are basically flat-ended pens. It really is the classic design of the American pen industry. Nowadays we tend to see a lot being made with kind of like the tapered finials and stuff like that, or very, you know, cigar, slender pens. All of that's great, but to me, this reflects the classic fountain pen industry. So even when we talk about things that come from a more modern maker, like the Bexleys I'm holding, which are basically, and you know, a terrific riff and interpretation of the classics. You know, you get, you know, that classic look in something that can be very modern, or maybe even a little confusing, because this is a Bexley flat top with the Duofold plastic. Again, great pens, well made. These are Bexleys from before they were bought by the Penn family. They were designed by Howard Levy, who's probably one of the best interpreters and transformers of some of the modern pen designs, or sorry, some of the vintage pen designs to the modern pen designs around. And so these are just 2 phenomenal pens. This one's actually a piston filler, called, the model was a Corona. I don't think this has a specific model name. And just another one, flat end from Howard, from Bexley is this pen. It, I believe, is based on the dimensions of the 136, which some of you may know is the precursor to the Mont Blanc Hemingway. And what I'll say about flat top pens, I actually wish that Mont Blanc really brought back the flat top designs, the 134, the 136. They're beautiful pens. To me, I like them more than the kind of cigar tapered finials of the 146 and the 149. It just, to me, again, reflects a real classic look from days gone by. And so I'm really excited when pen makers keep that up. I have an example from Edison pens. This is actually one of the draw fillers. You know, to me, just this is such a classic design for a fountain pen. I know I've said that like 70 times already, but it just, to me, the profile really exudes some elegance. It exudes some of those classic notes. And then obviously, as we're seeing, that there's a number of pen makers and manufacturers out there that really do a good job capturing it. From the Parker, who, you know, carries on a heritage, to the folks that have come along over the years, and sort of took on those designs and tried to tackle it. The last of the flat top section of this program is actually a Ranga pen. Ranga is a really interesting company because they make pens like we used to in this country 100 years ago. This is one of their models. I think it's the number 3, but I'm not positive about that. But it is their flat top, and that's one of the first things I think they introduced into the market was a flat top pen. And you can find from India a lot of great flat top pens at very affordable prices, some made of ebonite, some of acrylic. They import some of the newer materials that are very popular now. But you can get some really great classic looking pens made in India for a very affordable price. I'm a big fan of that. All right, so that's flat tops. Again, love the flat top. Think the flat top is a design that should never go away, and more people should try their hands at it. What is the next pen category or design feature I want to talk about? And that is something that very different. It is the matte finish. Now, there's a lot of different ways to make a pen attractive, right? You can do it through sort of the wingdings of the filling system. You can do it through the look of the material. So right now, at this point in the pen industry, I feel like we see a lot of like the swirly plastics and resins and the hand-poured stuff that a lot of small makers are using that are now being adopted by the big industrial pen makers. All of that's great. And that's a great way to kind of make unique looking pieces, right? For me, one of the things I look for, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is sort of the tactile experience, right? I think there was, when I started collecting, the biggest thing you could get was urushi coated pens, right? Urushi was the zenith of creation because it was this very interesting tactile feel, different than pretty much every other material. It took a lot of artistry and a lot of care to create that. And so that was, you know, the thing. And, you know, I don't have them with me, but I have a couple pieces and I agree. They feel excellent. One pen dealer once described it in sort of a very much more colorful way about what if comparing female anatomy to the feel of urushi, but I'll leave that for another time. In any event, back to this, the matte finish. I think the matte finish is great. It adds a look to the pen that is sort of unique. It's a feel to the pen that, you know, you don't get with the polished, you know, the glossy finished pens. And there's some great examples out there. For example, this is the Edison Glenmont. I showed a flat top. It is a flat top. And the finish on it is terrific. And when you write with it, it just feels different, you know, just get a different feeling. There's a great version of this from Aurora. They have the Talentum in, like, I forget the name of this, maybe Stealth or something like that. But again, wonderful, wonderful finish on it. It just adds a different experience. It's sort of has like a silkiness that the glossy finishes don't. Another great company doing matte finish is Leonardo, I have one of the original Momento Zeros in matte finish, and then one of the Momento Magicos. I love both of these pens. I teach part-time as a law professor. I frequently use this as a grading pen. This is a great pen. It's like an everyday carry. It's got a nice weight, and then adding to it is, again, the matte finish. My brother from another mother, Ian Sean, has the Ultem pen in a matte finish. It is terrific. In addition to the other design features, just, again, that matte finishing adds such a nice tactile experience. And it just, I don't know, to me, it just enhances the pen. And one of the things I like about it too is that it takes, a very simple look. It's often done with solids or transparent materials with no real swirls or other designs within the material. So it takes something simple and adds like another level to it, which is great. There's a pen from Opus 88. I think this is the Holiday. This is one of their eyedroppers. Also, just a great feel. This one, I got this recently. I just love it. And they do such a great job because they clearly polish the interior real nice, and then they frost it, and it's just great. The last one of these I'll show is something that I just acquired, which I was really excited about. It is the Pineider Ultra Resin Black, Matte Black. Comes with a black nib. But again, what's nice about it, right? Talking about sort of the what sets it apart. In the clear resin ones, they have a metal section that is on the normal model. With the white metal is a white metal brass or whatever that's coated with some sort of plating. In the black, the UR black models, it's, I think, basically ruthenium or some other type of black plating on metal. What's nice about this model is you get that matte finish on the section. So it just takes an already great model, and I think, to me, I was pleasantly surprised when I tried these things. It just takes a great model and makes it even better because it adds, some sort of a unique experience to using it. All right. The final category, the final design feature I want to talk about is the plunger filler. And I have a very old example of it. It's an Onoto. And what happens in a plunger filler is that you pull the plunger out and you push down. The seal travels along the bottom of the barrel. I should say it travels along the side of the barrel. It's against the barrel, so behind the plunger, you are building up pressure, and then when it gets down to kind of where the end of the section is, the inside widens, and ink actually travels up and around the plunger because it now has space and the vacuum has opened. And you can actually, on these vintage pens, I restored this several years ago, you can kind of hear it. There you go. I hope you heard the pop, right? That pop allows it to fill. And it's a design feature I love. To me, it's kind of counterintuitive that you would have pressure being created behind. I'll show you an example of the opposite in a second, which is sort of like a plunger, but it's not a plunger filler in the sense of that type of filling action. This is, again, one of those classic things that have been around for a long time. I mean, Onoto was doing this over 100 years ago. Schaefer was doing this. We have examples. I don't have one, but there was a company called Ford in England, had a very complicated version of this. Pilot made plunger fillers, and they continue to do so to this day. To me, what's great about it is sort of this very unique design feature, and we're fortunate enough now that you can get them pretty much at any price point because, and I dare say this, but in China, they're making a $35 plunger filler, and it's a great pen. This is the PenBBS $4.56. You can get it in a lot of different plastics and color combos. This to me was a very classic looking, the black, gold, and clear. And it feels like a plunger filler, you know, as good as you can expect for $35, probably even more. I know Twisby has one. You know, and then you go all the way up to the top of the map with a Visconti, and the Visconti basically works the same way, but obviously the price point's different. It has different origins. It has different metals and working and parts. So, you know, sort of with the plunger filler, there's a lot available. And there's a couple variations on it, not really the same in terms of how it works, but this is a syringe filler, and it basically works as it says. It's a syringe. So instead of the plunger fillers I was showing, they kind of go down and then it fills. This is literally, it sucks the ink up, right? And this is a Gate City Belmont. It was made by Bexley Pens, originally for Richard Binder, but then Indie Pen Dance took it over, and that's who I got this from. I think it's a Brooks material on there. And then, of course, there's the Conid bulk filler. This is the Minimalistica model. And it is also more of a syringe, but it has like the really interesting design feature that the plunger comes up, or the rod comes up, screws into the seal at the top of, or at the back of the barrel. It connects, it then disengages, moves the plunger down, sucks up ink, locks back into place, and then you disengage the rod from the seal and basically screw it back into place. You know, again, just great engineering, really interesting innovation. And the other thing I like about a lot of the plunger fillers is that they sort of work with an ink shutoff valve. That's a feature in old Japanese eyedroppers and the Opus 88 I showed before. Basically allows you to close off the section with the feed in it from the rest of the barrel. So like if you're flying, you'll have less of a chance of the pen leaking due to air pressure, because the pressure is actually closed off. So that is 3 fountain pens for me, Joshua Lax. I hope that it's been somewhat informative and entertaining. I'm really glad and honored that you asked me to do this. And what I'll say is that my biggest hope is that any of you watching this, I hope you and I get to meet at some point, if we haven't already, at a pen show. I'll be at the Philly Pen Show next week, and hopefully many more after that. So thank you very much, and see you all soon. Bye.